Problems are not personal. Problems are systemic. Everyone has the same problems and they will continue to have the same problems. The only thing you can change is how you perceive your problems, which then leads to better decision making without being so impacted by emotion. Here's a cool graphic I made. The outer circles represent your perspective. The inner circles, the white circles, those represent the problem. So the more zoomed in on the problem you are, as you can see in the left, the bigger the problem becomes. The more it becomes your reality. And the more you zoom out, like on the right, the problem becomes smaller and smaller because you can see that it is just a pixel that is a part of a beautiful image. And so it's a given that the bar on the bottom, where the more zoomed in on a problem you are, the more it is your attention is immersed in it, or the more it occupies your consciousness or attention, then the more anxiety, stress, and overwhelm you're going to have. One way you can test this out and kind of become conscious of it in real time is to drink a ton of coffee and then watch your mind as it will zoom in on the smallest little things because of the stress response, right? If you induce a stress response in your body by, let's say, consuming too much caffeine, and then you start to notice these little problems and then they immerse your attention and you can't even remember, like, oh, what was I supposed to do later today? You can't remember the finer things in life in that state of stress. And so in this video, I want to give you a new perspective on problems so that we can solve them. And towards the end, I want to give you a way or something that you can bring your focus back to at any given moment to live a better life and not be so restrained or chained down by your problems. Anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and any other negative emotion you can think of is the result of psychic entropy. Psychic equals of the mind. Entropy equals that systems tend toward disorder. If your mind is a system, then if energy is not consistently fed into that system to produce a desired end result, if order is not maintained in your mind, then it tends toward disorder. So if your mind was a room and you do not put energy or effort into cleaning that room, then your room is going to get dirty. It's going to get dirtier and dirtier over time. The first day, it may not seem like it's that dirty. There may be a few things out of place here and there, but after a week, a month, a year, I'm sure many of you have experienced this, or even just walked into someone's room and there's clothes everywhere, the bed isn't made, there's shit all over the desk, it's just a complete mess. And that means that the more that your mind, or really anything, because your body's a system, your relationships are a system, everything that leads to a desired outcome is a system. Anything where you are trying to receive or achieve a goal is a system. And so when those systems aren't maintained with energy or effort, or in the case of, let's say, your body, it could be the food that you're eating, whatever the input is to lead to the output, if that isn't maintained in a positive manner, then those systems are going to become more disordered over time, and it is going to require much more energy and effort to fix that system. And so everyone is living in a pigsty of a mind. I would argue that 95% of people have outsourced most of the things that they have control over. They've outsourced their mental health to, let's say, social media to get those pleasurable dopamine hits so they can feel good about themselves because they lack effort in consuming better information, learning, self-educating, and producing information, because input, output, you have to have that energy flow. You need to take energy in and you need to put energy out. So it's no wonder that anxiety and all these other things are plaguing our society more than they ever have. There's no wonder that mental health issues are on a rise across the board. Is it the whole case of the chemical imbalance? Yes, but I don't think people understand what they're saying when they actually say that. Yes, some people, they have a chemical imbalance. Everything you put into your body is a chemical. And so if that chemistry, let's say, in the system is not maintained through the means available to you, whether it be natural, unnatural, whatever it may be, chemistry is chemistry. If it doesn't check out, or there is something off, then that disorder is going to occur. There is a blockage there. And as Anthony DeMello says, remove the obstruction from your mind and you have peace. Remove the obstruction from your heart and you have love. And I would go as far to say remove the obstruction from your business and you have money. Remove the obstruction from any given system and you have result. So mental health in the general sense. I'm not a doctor here, and I know that you and I both have experienced how crazy people can get and defensive people can get about their mental health and how they kind of hide behind that. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying, why not exhaust every single solution available to you? And I am providing a solution that has worked for me and many others. Because in this sense, mental health is about making sense, understanding, and clarity. If you let a compulsive and negative thought hijack a situation, let's say you're talking to another person and a negative thought pops into mind like, oh shit, I have to get this done, and then you feel the stress that is associated with that alternate situation that you were projecting into, then you can't make sense of the current one because your mind is influenced by something that is not even relevant at that point. So the lesson with all of this and this little intro is that your problems are as big as you make them. You have to understand that your problems are normal, that everyone has problems, and that there are always two sides to the same coin. If there is a problem, there is also an opportunity on the other side of that coin that you are not seeing because your mind is not open enough because you're so laser focused on the problem itself. So problems aren't special. And when they are put into perspective, or when they are viewed from the top of the mountain or from the big picture, they seem very small and stupid. An example is, for my creators out there or my business people, is why are you getting so worried that your social media post on this given day at this given time with this given state of mind that you were in when you wrote it is getting zero engagement, when a child in a third world country has come to accept that he is not going to have water the next day, and he is perfectly okay with that? How is that child in a better mental space than you? I'm not asking you to answer that question. I am asking you to think about it. So by gaining perspective on your problems, you create the space to zoom your attention out, and from that, the problem shrinks from the size of the world to the size of a breadcrumb. So the next question is, how do you maintain the order in your mind to avoid the dreaded anxiety, overwhelm, stress, and other negative emotions that we face on a daily basis, like worry? You do it by creating your own reality.
Damn, bro, what the fuck does that even mean, creating your own reality?
Let's start with the common saying that your thoughts create your reality. And they do. But what makes those thoughts or your reality good or bad? So if our beliefs or our perceptions are programmed or conditioned into our mind as we age and as we grow up through the school system and our parents and the people we interact with, and the inevitable socialization that we have to go through to differentiate ourselves from other, and our beliefs tend to automate our thoughts, do we just accept that we have no control over this and accept the emotional baggage that comes along with an automated perception of our thoughts that are automated from our beliefs, and just living a robotic and mechanical and very reactive life that you think you have control over, but you don't? That, my friends, is what we call a puppet, an NPC, or non-player character in a game, or just an emotional light switch that people can turn off and off. Angry, happy, angry, happy. So to reverse this effect, or at least understand this, we need to understand two things. One, your perspective, which is the angle, position, or frame that you are viewing a situation from, and then your perception. So how you interpret that situation. Is it problematic or is it beneficial? Is it associated with one of your goals, and is it conducive to that goal? Are you misinterpreting it in an irrational way that is going to make you act in a way that leads to self-sabotage and you not achieving your goal in that situation? So when you combine these two together, I like to think of it as a camera, right? Perspective is the camera itself. You can move it, you can view the world from different angles, you can kind of mold your mind to see from someone else's camera and understand where they're coming from. You can also understand that your perspective is singular and you will never, ever, ever have the big picture. And so most situations where you get triggered or offended, you're usually missing a piece of the puzzle. I talked about a pixel being a part of an image, and when you only see a cluster of pixels in a huge image, you're going to come to assumptions and expectations and have negative emotions around that because you just aren't open-minded enough to think that there is a bigger picture in that situation. So that's perspective, but then both of them. So perspective and perception. Perspective is the camera, and then perception is the lens. So assumptions, expectations, judgments, negative emotions are when the lens is blurred. It's only when you see those cluster of pixels rather than the entire image for what it is. And the combination of both of those is focus, because you have to focus your camera on a specific part of that situation or that picture. And so in my eyes, the definition of focus is conscious attention. And when you peel everything back, habits aren't the most important thing. Whatever other self-help people tell you is not the most important thing. There is only one thing that you truly have a root control over that leads to every other thing you do, your thoughts, actions, whatever it may be, on a long enough time scale, and that is focus, which is conscious attention. That is the only thing that you can truly control that impacts everything else that you can somewhat control, your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Because at the end of the day, your unconscious is your unconscious. Things are programmed into your unconscious, and you are not going to be able to get away from that. The only thing you can do is when that compulsive unconscious thought pops into your conscious mind, are you going to give it conscious attention from and be able to mold your camera or your perspective to see it from a conducive angle that will lead to you achieving your goals, or just not being an emotional wreck about whatever problem comes up in that situation. So in the terms of, in the case of systems, and your mind being a system and attention being a way of processing information, that's what we do as human beings. We process information. Information holds a certain frequency. So if you hear the woo-woo people where they're like, everything is vibration or positive vibes only, there is some science behind it where what you pay attention to, you are processing a frequency of energy. And so if your mind is a system, and systems need energy to be maintained or just to flow properly and lead to beneficial outcomes, then you need to be very conscious with where you place your attention and how you interpret the information that is coming into your mind. Do not take this lightly. Consciousness, you can hear about it from ancient masters, spiritual gurus, whatever it may be, entrepreneurs, they talk about it from the lens of focus. Like, focus is the best thing that led to the most benefits in my life. And then ancient masters, they talk about non-duality and all this other stuff. And then spiritual teachers, they're like consciousness. There's so many different patterns here relating to attention, because in reality, that is the only thing you have. So the cure to anxiety or overwhelm or stress or worry is to always act with intention. This is the simplest thing that we can break it down into, is to always act with intention. And this intention is to operate within your own reality and not project outside of it. Or when you're interacting with other people, let's say in a social situation or in your relationships, you need to create a shared reality where projecting outside of that reality, you know that that's just going to cause problems. Or if you're both talking from your own perspectives and one doesn't understand another because it's not a shared perspective and you haven't created that reality that you can act in with shared goals and other things of that nature, then the problems are going to arise. That's what the problems are, and there isn't going to be a system, your reality, to maintain. So think about this. Does a bodybuilder care if he brings chicken and rice as his own meal to dinner? Yes, he does care, but only if he projects outside of his reality, which means he loses control of his attention. If he remembers what is important to him and his goals, and he is able to perceive the situation and the little jabs of insecurity that other people are throwing at him accurately, then he won't care because he is focused. So we have to exchange robotic living for intentional living. If that bodybuilder, let's say, was robotic, someone would be like, oh, you're bringing chicken and rice to dinner? And you'd be like, what the fuck? Like I don't know what he would say. You can assume what he would say, where it's like, yeah, I bring chicken and rice to dinner, or yeah, I don't know, I was thinking about having this, that, and the other, rather than maybe just joking it off and being like, yeah, I gotta, or he explains his perspective and his goals, and if other people don't accept that, then what can you do? So the word intention, from the Latin word intentio, is stretching or purpose. So my question to you is, what are you stretching towards? That is what you can bring your focus back to in order to gain a better perspective and accurately perceive a situation. The bodybuilder is striving towards a better physique. If he adopts the goals of someone else, which is outside of his reality, where their goals are just to have a very pleasurable meal and those goals don't align, and he sacrifices his values to pursue their goals, then he's going to feel like shit, and a bunch of problems are going to come up that he would have easily been able to avoid if he brought his attention back to the simple, what am I stretching towards? Because this is how you live a life of purpose rather than a life of meaninglessness, right? Intention, or stretching towards something, implies that there is a why behind your actions. If you do not have a why behind what you're doing, then why are you doing it? If you ask yourself, why am I doing this, and you don't like the answer, why are you doing it? And the usual thing is, when you either don't like the answer or you don't have an answer for why you were doing specific things, it's because you've kind of turned on autopilot. You have gone into survival mode. You were just going through the motions of life as you were programmed to do, because your unconscious brain can process and manage up to 11 million bits of information per second, compared to your conscious mind being able to process 40 to 50 bits of information per second. That is a ton. Everything you do, walking, possibly even peeing, little hand gestures like this that I'm not giving my conscious attention, are automatic. And you can switch into automatic mode if you do not remain aware, focused, and intentional about what you are doing on a daily basis. And then you have no idea where these negative problems are coming from. You have no idea where the negative emotions are coming from. You think they're just happening to you, rather than you being in control of them and being able to have this inner game or mental game that allows you to get out of those situations. So how do we get out of this state of feeling lost, anxious, and uncertain about our future? It's through building, actively constructing a better life for yourself, stretching towards something, and along the way, building brick by brick by brick by brick by brick to get there. And you have to understand that these words are intentional. Building, constructing. You don't build a house in a day. And think about this metaphorically. If you're trying to build a better life for yourself, how long does it take to build a mansion, right? A pretty long time. How long does it take to even see anything above ground for that mansion? How long does it take to lay a foundation? Maybe 6 months. I'm not a construction guy, but you're not even going to see results for 6 months. You're not going to see anything that you can show other people for 6 months, because you have to lay the groundwork. You have to deprogram. You have to chisel down and rebuild back up. So here's what you need to do is, 1, set a meaningful goal. This is what trips most people up, because you can read any statistic about 99% of people not following through with their New Year's resolutions, or just way too many people not having goals in general, not having something that they're stretching towards, not having something that they can put energy towards. And so the next question is, Dan, how do I create this meaningful goal, as you say? And if you don't know, then you don't know, okay? That's what a lot of people struggle with, is I don't know what to do. So the only thing you can do, there is literally only one thing you can do if you don't know. You have to try new things so you can know what you don't like, because flip side of the coin, once you know what you don't want, you understand what you want more. Because that's the thing, you can't really directly experience exactly what you want the first time around. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make sense. You may think you want it, but then you try something else and you're like, that's better, that's worse, that's even better, that's worse. It's a process. You're never going to have the perfect answer for this. The meaningful goal to you is going to be more so like, I think I want this, so I'm going to work towards this on a daily basis and pivot along the way if I have to. So try that new business model. Start learning about that new interest of yours. Buy a course. Enroll in college if you want to. You don't have to listen to people that say certain things are bad if it's something you genuinely want to do and try out for yourself. And given time, you'll know when it's time to go all in. You'll feel that feeling of excitement. That's what you're looking out for, is the dopamine that comes from visualizing a better future for yourself. So step 2 is to create a system, because now we have a meaningful goal. We have something out there that we don't have too much clarity on, and we will never have clarity on because it's so far away from us. There's a gap. You can't have clarity on exactly what it's going to be like because you don't have it right now, right? So you have to bridge that gap by creating a system and gaining clarity on how to get there. Because this is such a big skill that nobody talks about, is becoming a strategist. The highest paid individuals are the visionaries, the innovators, the strategists of the world, rather than the manual labor workers that are just acting out repetitive, non-leverageable actions on a daily basis for someone else. So that's what you need to do here, is become a strategist. I can't give you a system for creating a system. The best way to do this is by, 1, contemplating and visualizing a goal that you want to achieve, opening your mind to having a vision and gaining that excitement for the future, rather than being so focused and closed-minded on one little problem that you aren't able to see the full picture. So sit down for 30 minutes today, tomorrow, as soon as you possibly can, right now, and just start drawing, start writing, what do I want for the future? Because if you have all of these thoughts in your head and you aren't able to figure out, okay, what do I want and what do I do to get there, you're not going to figure it out in your head. You just frankly aren't. It's like, pretend that there is a water filter or just a spigot, and before clear water comes out, you have to push out all the dirty water, right? That's what writing and getting things on paper does, is it opens your mind and it takes those open loops out of your head and gets them somewhere so you don't have to compulsively think about them over and over and over again. Now, the other thing is that with a system, you have to understand that it is a process. It is not like, I'm going to do this today and then another thing tomorrow and then another thing the next day. You need to self-educate on how exactly you're going to achieve that goal. And that goal is going to be achieved by doing the same thing every single day. If you want to grow on social media, you need to post every single day. You need to reach out to people every single day. You need to work to get eyes on your brand every single day. If you want to gain muscle, you have to lift every single day, but also it's a process, so you have to pay attention, like, I'm going to recover this day, and you have to eat every single day. You have to do things on a daily basis and immerse your attention in the things that will lead to your goal. So step number 3 after that is to channel all of your energy toward that goal and that process. So we're already getting some energy from the intrinsic energy that comes from pursuing a meaningful goal. That's dopamine, that's fuel. So the next type of energy is extrinsic. So you are channeling all of your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward that specific goal. You are going to reframe every single thing in every single situation that you encounter in relationship to your goal. You are going to perceive and see the situation or the problem or whatever it may be from the perspective of your goal. If I want a healthy physique, then when I go out to eat, I'm going to view it from that perspective. I'm going to view that situation from that reality. I have this goal of achieving this physique. Am I going to eat this food or am I going to eat this food? If I do choose this food, am I going to care what people think about it? Or am I going to eat it anyways and not let them project their own goals and reality on me? And so that's exactly it. As you are going about day-to-day life, think about the why behind your actions. Think what kind of energy you are going to be channeling into your goals with every single action you take. And this isn't only for one goal. This is for mental goals, financial goals, spiritual goals, relationship goals, body goals, whatever it may be. What is your vision for the future? How are you going to get there? And why are you acting in a specific way, in a conscious way, on a day-to-day basis? That is it for this video. I appreciate you watching. You can check out the 2-Hour Writer, which is my writing course, link in the description, to learn practical writing online so you can build a name for yourself while building a high impact skill and high value skill. Next thing is Modern Mastery. It's $5 to join with the link in the description. 180 plus strategies for business, mental performance, etc., and a personalized help in the Discord. And then Digital Economics, the cohort where I teach you every single thing you need to know about starting a one-person business, which is the best option for 95% of people out there that want to start a business. It's low risk, it's low cost. You need to understand marketing, content, brand, and product, and that is exactly what I teach in a way that I have done and made successful myself. And lastly, there's free guides, free products. Merch is coming soon for Modern Mastery. I'm going to have one that says build. This hoodie is sick, and I have dad hats too. So keep an eye out for those. It's kind of like a hobby project for now. But aside from that, I appreciate you watching. Peace.